Hello everyone, my name is Marsh, and today we're going to be doing a review for No Country for Old Men. Let's jump into it. So, No Country for Old Men by Cormac McCarthy. This is going to be a spoiler-free review, mostly thoughts, what I thought about the book. I may have a little spoiler section at the end for a minute or two, but I'll give you plenty of warning beforehand. But before I jump into it, if you end up enjoying this video, consider leaving a like and subscribing, and that would be greatly appreciated. Other than that, let's go ahead and jump right in. So, No Country for Old Men by Cormac McCarthy. This is something I wanted to get into, and more specifically, I wanted to get into Cormac McCarthy in general. I've heard a lot of great things about him and his writing, Blood Meridian, The Road, No Country for Old Men, etc., and all those things. And you hear about how great of an author he is, how he's like the last great American author, people say, things of that sort. And he has so much mystique around him, I just wanted to see what's up. Now, I did have exposure to Cormac McCarthy beforehand. In high school, I did read The Road, and I loved it. It was actually probably my favorite book I read in high school. So I kind of knew what to expect with Cormac McCarthy in terms of prose writing style and how he handles just writing in general when it came to at least The Road. And so basically what this was me getting my toes dipped back in before I tackle one of his bigger novels such as Blood Meridian. Before we jump into my thoughts on specifics such as setting, prose, writing, theme, any of those things, I just wanted to say I overall really enjoyed No Country for Old Men. I chose this one specifically because it is shorter and it also has a movie based off of it. I always love seeing adaptations and how they handle certain things, change certain things, and make the decisions that they make. So that really motivated me to choose this one instead of jumping straight into Blood Meridian. Plus, I wanted to familiarize myself once more with Cormac. But overall, it was great. I really enjoyed it. Not like my favorite book ever, but it was a nice little thriller, which I don't really read much of. I mostly read fantasy sci-fi, but every once in a while I'll throw in a classic here and there. So first things first with the story, I wanted to talk about Cormac McCarthy's writing style. If you've read Cormac McCarthy before, you know what I mean in terms of he doesn't use punctuation the same way everyone else does, which is partly the reason I also recommend that when it comes to Cormac McCarthy, you probably read the book instead of doing an audiobook, because it's a unique experience in itself when you're reading. So, for example, when he's doing his dialogue, he doesn't use any quotation marks, so you don't necessarily know when someone is starting to speak. You do know because he's a good writer, but it's not obvious like other books when you see quotation marks in dialogue. And other than that, he's very dry and specific, I would say, with his writing. It's very guttural and to the point. He doesn't beat around the bush. He doesn't go crazy in descriptions. He'll definitely describe things, but it's very straight to the point. And if he wants to talk about an item, he'll tell you what it is. If he's talking about a type of truck, he'll tell you it's a 79 Blazer that's black. He's not going to say the truck had an ebony shine to it or something like that. He's not very purple. He's going to be straight to the point. And also with the no quotation marks, this feeds into the strength I see, at least with Cormac McCarthy, and that's his characters, in my opinion at least. Because one thing when you're not using quotation marks, and with other stories as well, when you're not being obvious about who's talking, you really need to have a voice for your characters so that the audience can have a distinct idea of who's speaking at what time. It's even more important that he has a distinct voice for his characters, considering there's no quotations, because you don't know when it's going to switch to the other person. And sometimes if you're reading through a whole page of dialogue where they're only saying 4 or 5 words at a time and switching back and forth, you can lose your place. And so Cormac McCarthy has a great way of giving his characters a voice to where you know who's speaking whenever they are speaking, and you don't get confused, and you know what the point is and who's talking. It's definitely one of his strengths and one of the things I enjoy the most. The other thing I would say that he does really well in his writing is his action. Like I said, it's very guttural and straight to the point and very brutal. And I think that's why it plays into this type of story that he tells in terms of thrillers. Or you look at Blood Meridian, which is a Western, and I've heard from people it's one of the bloodiest and most gruesome books ever. And you look at Road, which is something that is desperate, and there's just despair and brutality in this dystopian world. And Cormac really has a great job at going straight at your gut and just making you feel what's happening there. Not to mention, he has a great idea of like a theme or what he wants when he's making characters, I would say something like The Road is a lot more heavy in theme with what it's trying to portray. But with No Country for Old Men, this book is more of a character study thriller, I would say. The specific character that we follow is a man by the name of Moss. And then there's two other main viewpoints. We have Anton Chigurh, and then we have Tom Bell, the sheriff. And so basically what's happening, the summary of this book is this man Moss stumbled upon a situation where the cartel was having an exchange, everyone died, and he stumbled upon a bundle of money. And it's about him trying to keep the money and run away while he's getting chased down and while the cops are investigating everything. Anton is the person that's doing the chasing, and Ed Tom is the sheriff, and he's trying to figure out what's going on. That's the basic premise of it. It's a pretty simple thriller, but the beauty of it, I would say, is with the characters, really with Anton Chigurh. Whenever Anton is on screen, it's just so unpredictable. He's just a psychopathic killer, and you have no idea what he's going to do at any given moment, and it's what makes it so interesting. Not only that, it's not like he's like some weird Ted Bundy killer, or he's like asking people to put lotion in baskets. He's very specific, and he has an idea of fate and being where you're at that moment was destined to happen, and everything is meant to happen for a reason. And he's psychologically very interesting the way he handles things, because he's not a stupid character. He's actually extremely intelligent when he handles certain things. It's just he's twisted, like most serial killers are. But he has his own mantra, motto, and way of life that he follows, and he really captures the page. Every Anton section I was just glued to and stuck to. The Moss and the Tom sections, they're good as well, but Anton really steals the show in this. If you're looking for some type of character study in terms of serial killers or psychopaths, this is a great book for that. And it's hard to describe without going into spoilers how intense every section he's in is. But overall, yeah, the characters are great, and it's what makes it interesting, because the plot itself isn't the most unique. It's like a kind of a basic premise, and it's a good thriller in the way they go about executing it. But what makes it shine is the characters, what they go through, and the situations that happen. Specifically with Anton, because he is one of the most fascinating characters I've read in a while. There's moments in this book, especially towards the end, and they just make your jaw drop, and I'm just like, whoa. In terms of any complaints, my only real complaint is I think the book went on for an extra 10 or 20 pages when it really didn't need to. I think there's a perfect ending spot that happens, and it continues on, and it gives closure to a few other things. I just didn't care about those things per se, but I think it could have ended like 10 to 20 pages earlier. It's not a real complaint though. It's still great, and it's not like a fantasy novel, so you don't need to conclude everything, or it's not building to a sequel. It's just a one-time standalone thriller thing. It does its job, and it's amazing. I would say it's actually a really good entry into Cormac McCarthy as well. If you want something a little more thematic, The Road is definitely one way to go. Post-apocalyptic, and it's a story of like a father and son. And then if you want a thriller, this is a great way to go as well. I'll definitely be picking up more of his stories and seeing how they are. I think I might do Blood Meridian next. Won't promise on when that's going to happen, but that's the one I'm looking at now that I have 2 of his books under my belt to see what else he has to offer. But yeah, overall, No Country for Old Men was great. I really enjoyed it. It was a great experience, a quick little thriller, and the character study was one of the best parts about it. And Anton is just such a fascinating character that I highly implore picking it up just to look at this character examination, to be quite honest. But thank you for watching. If you could leave a like and subscribe, that'd be greatly appreciated. And I'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye.